Good day, everyone, and thanks for joining me once again. Today I'm joined by Steve Vest, who is the president of Nationwide Equipment Transport, and you see that I have his special ad that he sent me. So,
Nice.
Steve, welcome to Healthcare Business News.
Thanks for having me, Phil. I appreciate it. Glad to see you're doing well.
Right. So, Steve, tell me, how are things in Kansas with the pandemic?
We've been pretty lucky, I think, here in the Midwest. Not like yourself in New York, but um, most things have been shut down for a while. It's starting to open back up now, and we're like in phase 3. So most people are going back to the office and going back to work. And um, I think for the most part, things are getting back to a little bit of normalcy. We've noticed my daughters play softball, so we're able to actually play softball again and have practices and games, and um, or start moving in the right direction. So
Are people social distancing still, and are they wearing masks?
um, I would say for the most part, it's probably 50-50. I think, they put in regulations for this weekend at softball, and we found that probably after about the first hour, people started doing their own things, and most people weren't wearing masks at the fields because it was outdoors. But you go to the grocery stores here, and it's probably a 50-50 split.
I see. So I know that you're in the freight business, and tell me, have you noticed during the pandemic that freight to healthcare facilities or healthcare related freight has decreased or increased, or what happened? What's going on there?
Well, I think initially, early on in March, it was a big increase. We had a ton of shipments going to affected areas like New York for hospitals, ventilators, hospital beds, things of that nature. That kind of slowed down after about March, beginning of April. I think because most inventory was depleted at that point and everybody got what they needed. Business has been down probably about 20 to 30% across the industry, but for the most part, industry wide, it's starting to pick back up. We've noticed a big uptick here in the last couple of weeks.
So you see hospital related freight increasing now.
Not as much as it was at the end of March and beginning of April. That's still kind of slower right now. I think most of the folks we work with and DotMed works with in the used equipment market, that industry has kind of depleted their inventory. And so they're having to rebuild that back up. And until all the auctions start back up and they can start buying stuff again, I think that that's going to be down for the next couple of months.
I see. Uh, what sort of takeaways do you have from your experience? Anything that you've learned that you'll incorporate into your business plans for the future?
Well, I mean, obviously, we created a shipping app a couple years ago, and it's starting to be used a lot more during this because people are working from home and they can do everything on their phone. Texting and talk to text and being able to get a hold of us remotely has been vitally important over the last couple of months. But for the most part, just to be patient. I know a lot of small business owners are out there are struggling right now and concerned about where the future is. But for us, it's been trying to be business as usual as much as possible, but trying to create new ways to do business and change the way you do things going forward. As small business owners, we all have to stick together and try to find ways to survive really during this, and not try to increase business if you can, but mostly just to survive and get through it. We've been through these before. You've been through more than me probably, but 2008 and other ones since we started the company, you have to weather the storm a little bit.
Okay. Tell me, do you find that there are companies that are not, do you think that we will have fewer companies in 2021 than we did in 2019?
I think so. I mean, I definitely think that there's going to be a lot of companies that weren't prepared, just like most people don't have savings. Most companies were living on the float and didn't have the capability of withstanding this storm financially. So that's unfortunate. I think for the freight industry, we're going to see a big decrease in the number of people that are in the industry, from trucking companies to freight brokers like ourselves. But that will open up more opportunities for us, but it'll also decrease the capacity, which could raise rates going forward. Right now they're way down, but I think going forward they could go way up.
You know, I remember just before the pandemic or at the end of last year, I perceived there was a shortage of truck drivers. What about now?
What I've read in the industry that there's definitely not a shortage because there's not as much freight. So if you drive by down the road here from we have an LTL carrier terminal, and they've got trailers stacked up on top of each other. The air freight industry has been wiped out completely. We've got 100+ airplanes parked at our airport here in Kansas City. I can't even imagine what New York's airport must look like. So the freight is so far down that the trucking shortage has kind of gone away for the time being. But I think that'll, by the end of the year could possibly rear its head again.
Okay, well, from your lips to God's ears, things turn around and get better by the end of the year.
Yep, I hope so. I definitely hope so. I think within 6 months, I would hope that we'd be back to where we were. I mean, obviously the stock market's already coming back, but I think I've seen a big uptick in the last couple of weeks. So I'm positive and hopeful that it'll continue to get better for everybody.
Well, Steve, it's really nice of you to join us today. We really appreciate it, and we wish you luck in all of your activity.